Hello everyone, I am Dr. Kajal Mundada. Today we are going to discuss a very beautiful and famous poem written by Robert Southey. The title of the poem is The Inchcape Rock. Friends, every country and culture has got its own storehouse of various legendary stories. A legendary story carries moral in it. And here I will put in front of you some 4 to 5 statements, and we are supposed to think over what these statements actually communicate to us. Now, the first statement: as you sow, so shall you reap. Number 2, crime gets its own punishment. Number 3, what goes around comes around. Number 4, tit for tat. And number 5, evil digs a pit for others but falls into the same. Now, if we look at these 5 statements, we understand that all of them communicate similar meaning. And it is that a bad person is always punished for the bad deeds. And this is what is the theme of this beautiful poem written by Southey. Let's now try to understand this poem. The Inchcape Rock is the title. Now, what is the Inchcape Rock? Inchcape Rock is actually a rock in the sea. So, the story moves around this Inchcape Rock. Let's now try to understand this poem. Before we start this poem, let me tell you that the structure of this poem is of a ballad. A ballad is a long narrative poem, and this poem is divided into 17 different stanzas made up of 4 lines each. Let's now try to understand this poem line by line. No stir in the air, no stir in the sea. The ship was as still as she could be. Her sails from heaven received no motion. Her keel was steady in the ocean. So the poet is describing the ship in the sea and how the atmosphere was. There was no stir in the air, means there was no movement in the air, there was no movement in the sea. No stir in the sea. The ship was as still as she could be, means the ship was very silent and it was very silently moving on. Her sails from heaven received no motion. Her keel was steady in the ocean. Now, what the poet says? The poet says that the sails of the ship were not receiving any motion, and that's why her keel, means the keel of the ship, was firmly set in the ocean. Now, in the first stanza itself, we find that Southey has actually made use of 3 different figures of speech. The first one is that he has made use of personification, where he compares or he represents the ship as a woman who is standing still. Now, in personification, the inanimate object or abstract ideas, they are represented as human beings and as if they have got feelings and thoughts like the human beings. So, personification he has made use of. Secondly, he has also made use of simile, as there is the comparison made between the silent standing up of the ship with the silent standing up of a woman, and the poet has made use of the conjunctions like as, which make him represent the comparison, and he has made use of simile, that is direct comparison, and also he has made use of the alliteration. Now, what is alliteration? Alliteration is close repetition of similar sound at the beginning of different words. So we find here the ship was as still as she could be. The sound sir in ship, still and she is repeated, putting forth an instance of alliteration. Without either sign or sound of their shock, the waves flowed over the Inchcape Rock. So little they rose, so little they fell, they did not move the Inchcape Bell. The poet further says that the waves moved gently over the Inchcape Rock. There was no sign and no sound of the shock of the surging waves. They were flowing very gently over the Inchcape Rock. So little they rose, so little they fell. So little movement these waves made that they did not move the Inchcape Bell, means they created no impact on the Inchcape Rock. The abbot of Aberbrothock had placed that bell on the Inchcape Rock. On a buoy in the storm, it floated and swung, and over the waves its warning rung. So, whenever there was a storm, there used to be the ringing of the bell. Now, who had placed the bell there? There had been good abbot of Aberbrothock. And this abbot of Aberbrothock, he had placed that bell on the Inchcape Rock. What was the intention? The intention was that whenever there would be a storm, whenever there would be surging waves, at that time actually the rock would be covered by the waves and it was not seen by the sailors. And in a way, the ship could dash against the Inchcape Rock. So, in order to save such accidents, in order to save the lives of the sailors sailing in the ocean, good abbot of Aberbrothock, he had placed that bell on the buoy. Buoy is actually the floating object that anchored into the sea to mark the dangerous places. So, in this way, the bell was placed there, and this bell, whenever there had been waves, it rang and it came as a warning to the sailors. When the rock was hit by the surge's swell, the mariners heard the warning bell. So, whenever there was sudden and great rise in the level of the sea, means whenever there had been big waves, at that time the bell would create the sound, it would keep on ringing, and the mariners heard the sound of the bell and took it as a warning. And then they knew the perilous rock and blessed the abbot of Aberbrothock. In this way, they came to know that there was the perilous rock, that is, the dangerous rock was there, and thus, because their lives were saved, these people thanked and blessed abbot of Aberbrothock. The sun in heaven was shining gay. All things were joyful on that day. The seabirds screamed as they wheeled round, and there was joyance in their sound. One day, the sun was shining happily in the sky, and all things appeared very joyful on that particular day. The seabirds were also chirping, they were also screaming as they flew in circles above the sea, and there was happiness seen in their, or there was happiness heard in their sound. So in this way, the stanza describes the pleasant atmosphere on a particular day. The buoy of the Inchcape Bell was seen, a darker speck on the ocean green. Sir Ralph the Rover walked his deck, and he fixed his eye on the darker speck. On that day, the Ralph the Rover, he was walking on his deck, or he was moving on his deck. He fixed his eye on the darker speck. He looked at the darker speck. Now, what is the darker speck? The darker speck is nothing but the Inchcape Rock that is seen as a spot from a long distance in the sea. So it appeared like a dark speck, a dark spot in the green ocean. He felt the cheering power of spring. It made him whistle, it made him sing. His heart was mirthful to excess, but the rover's mirth was wickedness. Ralph the rover, he felt very happy. He was very joyful, and he was so happy that he felt like whistling and he felt like singing. His heart was full of happiness, excessive happiness he was experiencing. But this happiness was because of the wicked plan that had come in the mind of Ralph the rover. His eye was on the Inchcape float. Quoth he, "My men, put out the boat and row me to the Inchcape rock, and I will plague the abbot of Aberbrothock." His eye was fixed on the Inchcape bell, and he said, quoth he means he said, he talked to his people and he ordered them that you take the boat near the Inchcape rock. Row me to the Inchcape rock, and I will plague the abbot of Aberbrothock. Means I would destroy the good name of Sir Aberbrothock. Means he was actually a wicked man and he had a plan to remove the bell and thus spoil the name of Sir Aberbrothock. The boat is lowered, the boatmen row, and to the Inchcape rock they go. Sir Ralph bent over from the boat and he cut the bell from the Inchcape float. Thus, the boat was lowered by his men and they rowed on and they went near the Inchcape rock. When they came near the Inchcape rock, Sir Ralph bent over from the boat and he cut the bell from the Inchcape float. Down sunk the bell with a gurgling sound. The bubbles rose and burst around. Quoth Sir Ralph, "The next who comes to the rock won't bless the abbot of Aberbrothock." So immediately the bell sank down with a gurgling sound, and there were bubbles which burst around the sinking bell. Ralph said with contempt that whoever would come to the rock would not thank the abbot. In this way, his wicked plan was carried out. Now here we find again another figure of speech employed by the poet, and it is used in the word gurgling sound. Now gurgling is actually here an instance of onomatopoeia. What is onomatopoeia? In onomatopoeia, the word sounds just like it represents. So the gurgling sound, the word and the sound created by the bell at the time of sinking is similar, and thus a poetic device called onomatopoeia is very beautifully employed by the poet here. The next stanza. Sir Ralph the rover sailed away, he scoured the seas for many a day, and now, grown rich with the plundered store, he steers his course for Scotland's shore. Sir Ralph the rover, he sailed away, he travelled freely for the ships to rob, and he scoured the seas for many a day. Scoured means to travel very freely. Sir Ralph, he travelled freely over the sea for many days, and by travelling over the sea and by plundering different ships, by looting different ships, he had now grown very rich, and thus he, after becoming very rich, started moving towards the shore of the Scotland. So in this way we find that Ralph the rover, he sailed away and he rode on the sea for so many days, and then he grew rich by looting the wealth from so many other ships, and finally he directed his ship towards the shore of Scotland. So thick a haze overspreads the sky. They cannot see the sun on high. The wind hath blown a gale all day, at evening it hath died away. So, in the next stanza, the poet describes the atmosphere. There was a thick haze spread over the atmosphere, and the sailors were not able to see the sun very clearly in the sky. The whole day, strong winds blew, and by evening, the storm cleared away. Thus, we find that the atmosphere in a way was good. Next stanza. On the deck, the rover takes his stand. So dark it is, they see no land. Quoth Sir Ralph, it will be lighter soon, for there is the dawn of the rising moon. Now, here we find in the very first line, poet has made use of another poetic device known as inversion. In inversion, the normal course of the words or the normal sequence of the words is inverted. So instead of saying that the rover takes his stand on the deck, the poet writes, on the deck, the rover takes his stand. The poet says the rover stood on the deck and it was so dark that he could not see the land. He said to his people that there would be good weather when the moon would rise in the sky. So he was anticipating good atmosphere in near future. Cast here, said one, the breakers roar. For methinks we would be near the shore. Now where we are I cannot tell, but I wish I could hear the Inchcape bell. A sailor said to Sir Ralph that he was not hearing the roaring sound of the waves, and it seemed that the shore was quite close to them. Another sailor said to Sir Ralph that he was not aware where they were, but he wished that he could hear the sound of the Inchcape bell. They hear no sound, the swell is strong. Though the wind hath fallen, they drift along, till the vessel strikes with a shivering shock. O Christ, it is the Inchcape rock. They heard no sound of waves, though the waves were very strong, but still the sailors could not hear the sound of the waves in the sea. The wind subsided and they drifted along until to their utter shock their ship was struck against the Inchcape rock. Because the boatmen could not hear to the sound of the Inchcape bell, the accident took place. Sir Ralph the rover tore his hair. He cursed himself in his despair. The waves rush in every side. The ship is sinking beneath the tide. And because of this accident, because of this misfortune that has come to him, because of his own bad deed, because of his own contempt and jealousy for Sir Aberbrothock, now the situation was that Sir Ralph now cursed himself. He was fully in despair and he was so frustrated that he tore his hair. Meanwhile, the waves from all the sides engulfed the ship and the ship began to sink beneath the high tide in the sea. Thus again here we find that alliteration very finely is used by the poet. Sir Ralph the rover tore his hair. Sound R is used repeatedly, putting forth the instance for alliteration. And when Ralph cried like, "Oh Christ, it is the Inchcape rock," we find the figure of speech apostrophe very beautifully employed by Robert Southey. Now, what is apostrophe? Apostrophe is addressing something which is not present in front of the speaker. So, the absent is addressed as if it is present in front of the speaker. Now, in front of Ralph, there was no Christ, but still he is talking to Christ as if Christ is present in front of him. And so he exclaimed, "Oh Christ, it is the Inchcape Rock." So this is an instance of apostrophe. And then we come to the last stanza. But even in his dying fear, one dreadful sound could the rover hear, a sound as if with the Inchcape bell the devil below was ringing his knell. So, even in his dying fear, the rover could hear to the dreadful sound which seemed just like the sound of the Inchcape bell. So, here is comparison made between two types of bells. Sir Rover, he imagines that the sound is coming from the Inchcape bell, and this sound is compared with the bell that is actually the death knell. Now, what is knell? Knell is the sound of the bell rung very seriously or solemnly after death of some person or after the funeral announcement of death. So, he feels that he is listening to the death knell which is rung by the devil under the water. And in this way, we find that the poem comes to an end, and by the end of the poem, the bad deed of Sir Ralph the Rover is punished. He gets the punishment of the act that he had performed out of contempt and out of jealousy. He was jealous of the good name of Abbot of Aberbrothock, and that's why he performed the wicked deed, but finally he has to meet the punishment. In this way, we find that this poem comes with the theme of crime and punishment. If you commit crime, if you commit something wrong, you are bound to get the punishment. Now, thinking about the structure of the poem, Robert Southey has written this poem in the ballad form. Now, a ballad is a long narrative poem which has got a story, and the story is usually popular in a particular region. Now, in this poem, we find that poet very beautifully has employed the ballad form, and he has made use of the detailed narration of a narrative story. And the moral of this story or the moral of this poem is that if somebody digs a pit for others, he himself falls into it. And thus we find that this is a ballad that has the story of adventure, plundering, valor, jealousy, and it comes out with a moral. Now, talking about the rhyming scheme. The rhyme scheme employed is similar for all the stanzas, and it was very important for the writer of a ballad to employ the rhyme scheme because the rhyme scheme made it very easy for the singer to memorize the poem and recite it to different people, as was the purpose of a ballad. So here also we find that in every stanza, first and second line rhyme together, third and fourth line rhyme together, and that's why the rhyme scheme is AABB. So in this way we find that very beautifully Southey has employed the rhyme scheme, and rhyme scheme, it was actually useful for the wandering minstrel to remember the story and narrate it in the form of the song in front of the people. Thus, we also have seen that poet has employed very beautifully different poetic devices like personification, alliteration, simile is there, metaphor is there, onomatopoeia is there, inversion is there. Thus, we have a ballad that is represented very beautifully by the employment of various poetic devices. A poem that comes with a moral is known as a didactic poem. And in this way, this poem, The Inchcape Rock, is also a didactic poem as it has come ahead with a moral that if you do bad to others, bad comes to you in turn. So, as you sow, so shall you reap. That is the message we receive from this beautiful poem. I hope you have understood this poem. Thank you.